To an NBC News exclusive now, and survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse revealing a new push and pushback against the president's pick to be the next attorney general, Todd Blanche, ahead of his confirmation hearing this week. President Trump, about a month ago, picked his former personal lawyer for that job after ousting the ex-AG, Pam Bondi, partly because of his frustration with how she handled the Epstein files. But look at this. You see here billboards popping up in states like North Carolina, Texas, Louisiana, targeting retiring Republican senators by urging them not to back Blanche. And now a new emotional PSA airing for the first time ever right here on HJN, with several survivors making their case directly. We'll play it for you here in full.
My name was released.
My phone number was released.
Where I went to school.
Where I live.
My students can now search me and read about my abuse.
I am an Epstein survivor.
I am an Epstein survivor.
I am an Epstein survivor.
We were exposed.
Nude pictures of victims were released.
Our family's safety was put at risk.
Now, Todd Blanche wants to be the Attorney General of the United States.
Todd Blanche had a duty to protect us.
Instead, he protected the people who committed crimes against us. 30 years.
1,200 victims.
And 6 million files.
A mountain of evidence. But Todd Blanche says there are no investigative leads.
Todd Blanche failed us.
He failed victims everywhere.
We deserve better.
Our country deserves better.
Vote no on Todd Blanche for Attorney General.
Vote no.
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 Vote no on Todd Blanche for Attorney General.
That new PSA there, you saw both Liz Stein and Joanna Harrison both in it. Both are survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse. They are joining us here on set in Washington. Thank you both so much for being here and for taking the time out of what I know will be a busy week for both of you. Liz, so glad to have you back on. Talk me through this push now, the concerns that you have about the nomination of Todd Blanche to be the Attorney General and what you want to see this week.
Well, I think that we have a lot of things that are concerning us about Todd Blanche's nomination. I think that it's important. Something that I like to bring people's attention to a lot is that there has been so much political emotion infused into this case that I think that we have lost sight of what we're looking at. We are victims of a crime, and Todd Blanche is looking to be confirmed to be the top lawmaker in our country.
Law enforcement
agent in our country. And that's beyond concerning to us because of the way that these files have been handled over the past year. I think that what we saw in the release, and I'm going to say partial release of the files because there are still 2.5 million files that have not been released to the public, but we have seen over and over again where victims' names and personal identifying information has been exposed, yet perpetrators' names and information has been redacted. And that was not a provision of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. I think that Todd Blanche and the Department of Justice's lack of interest in prosecuting a crime that had more than 1,000 victims. There were 1,000 girls and young women who were sexually abused in this case, but we're not focusing on that. And I think that the way that we've seen the DOJ handle this case so far is concerning not only to us as victims of this crime, but it should be concerning to Americans everywhere. What would a victim of crime anywhere in our country feel about coming forward and what the Department of Justice will do to protect them?
Joanna, you are one of the women that Liz is referring to. You never intended to be public. I don't think you ever intended to be sitting here today, telling your story, talking about your story. But the file release, the release of the Epstein documents has something to do with that, right? Explain that.
Yeah, I never wanted to go public. I didn't want my face out there. I was ashamed to be a part of this, as I think a lot of us have felt. And I felt like after reading my name so many times, when the DOJ files released it, it was beyond devastating for me. And I felt the only way for me to regain some of my strength was doing interviews and coming out. But I feel like it was just something else. It wasn't really my choice. I didn't get to do it in the timing I wanted to do it. I feel more forced than anything to come out.
And I know it's emotional for you even now. You really haven't done many interviews. I know this is still something that's fairly new to you. And it sounds like you are yet again, a la the abuse that you suffered at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein, not able to exert your own agency, your own control over this process. Is that what you're saying?
That was one of the more devastating parts, is it was the lack of control. And here we are getting hurt again, being used again, having our names put out there. And it feels like it takes away some of your power. That's a story I should be able to tell people when I decide it's right. It shouldn't be something that somebody can just go Google and then they find that I'm connected.
Because your name appeared at first unredacted, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that like when you realized that?
Very devastating. I had friends sending me pictures, screenshots, and there's nothing that can prepare you for that.
Liz, it is not just the document release and the handling of the document release that has created a cause for concern, I know, for you and some of the other survivors that are coming forward now urging Blanche not to be confirmed. The handling of the Ghislaine Maxwell case, I know, is a part of this as well, right?
Absolutely it is. Last July, the DOJ and the FBI jointly released a memo that basically said, we've looked at the files, there's nothing to see here. And we know that that's not true. And just a few weeks later, Todd Blanche went to Florida to interview Ghislaine Maxwell. I want to remind the public that Ghislaine Maxwell has perjured herself in civil cases before and has not been a reliable source of any credible evidence. Yet after that interview, she was moved to a lower security facility in Texas. And Todd Blanche's only explanation for that has been that there were safety concerns for Maxwell. Now, let me tell you, there are more than 1,000 of us who have our own safety concerns. And I don't think that we should be, indulging the safety concerns of someone who's been committed of sex trafficking. I think that we really need to focus on the victims of this crime.
Let me ask you, not to get too into the political weeds here, as we sit here in Washington, where we can see the Capitol from our set, the place where Todd Blanche will go through that confirmation hearing later this week. You've got to change the minds of at least 3 Republicans to be able to do what you are seeking to do and block his confirmation. Those billboards that we showed targeted 3 senators who have in some way beefed with the president, but they have also already voted once to confirm Blanche for a different position. Liz, I'll ask you, what is giving you hope? Do you have hope that an outcome could be different this time, or do you believe that that Blanche will make his way to a confirmation here?
I certainly hope that he will not make his way to the confirmation hearing. I hope that the American public really understands what the issues are as far as Todd Blanche's competency to hold this job. I think that we're looking at those 3 potential senators that could flip. We've done a lot of lobbying. And we've met with a lot of lawmakers.
Behind the scenes, no cameras,
Behind the scenes, to tell them our stories, to give them information about these crimes. And it doesn't matter what political party someone is from, when we sit down and we tell them our stories as human beings, because like I said earlier, I think there's been so much political emotion infused into this case, and it really does not belong there. But when you sit with someone and you say, I could be your daughter, I could be your wife, I could be, one of your child's friends. I think that shifts people's perspective, and it's hard to say, yeah, I stand behind girls and young women being sexually victimized.
What do you hope to see come Wednesday? Are you planning to be at the Capitol?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you hope happens?
I would hope for some understanding, maybe like how Liz said, this could be your wife, this could be your daughter. How would you feel if it was? And what kind of justice would you want to see brought if it was your wife or daughter's name that was released in this?
How about you, Liz? What do you want to hear Todd Blanche asked?
Well, I think that there are a lot of things that we want Todd Blanche to answer, but what I am mostly concerned with is how truthful he is in answering, because we have seen him say things like he's opened the door to meet with survivors when he hasn't met with any survivor that I know of. So I think that my focus is going to be on his answers to the questions. That's where I'm going to.
You'll be keying in on that.
Absolutely.
So tell me, Joanna, what do you want Americans to know? What is your message to the public about this moment?
Well, I think if we would have believed victims to begin with, we wouldn't be here. And I think that a lot of society tends to second guess or question how people were found in certain situations. And I think, had this been taken seriously in the 90s, a lot of us wouldn't be victims. And so for me, it's just to believe survivors. And if you have questions, ask them with care and with kindness and for the reason of understanding, not judging.
Joanna and Liz, thank you both so much for being here with us today. I know it's going to be a busy week, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.